last time we discussed that there are five transport mechanisms, and we did the first one, which was diffusion. Then we went on to explaining the factors affecting the rate of diffusion. So today we'll be starting off with the next mechanism, which is osmosis. It is quite similar to a diffusion, but the only difference is that it has a partially permeable membrane through it, and it happens usually in water. So basically, first we'll start off with the definition. So the definition, there is keywords in the definition. So it's a net movement. Net is an important word. It's a net movement of water molecules from a region of higher water potential to lower water potential through a partially permeable membrane. Right. So these are the important terms that I've highlighted. Previously, we used to do a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. This is something similar, but for water and for osmosis, we use the term higher water potential to lower water potential. And the thing that differentiates mainly is the use of the partially permeable membrane present during osmosis. Now what's concentration? Now concentration represents the amount of solute in a solution. So we've done mixtures in O levels where we learned there was a solute, there was a solvent, and there was a solution. So solute is something that mixes in a solvent, and the universal solvent, as we all know, is water, right? So for example, salt in water, the salt will be the solute in the solution. So concentration represents that amount of solute in the solution, which, like for example, if there's 80% water and 20% solute, so this 20% is concentration of solute. It can be expressed as molarity, which is moles per dm cube, or as a percentage concentration. So something like a 10% glucose solution or a 10% NaCl solution, or 10 mole NaCl solution and 10% glucose solution, it refers to the same thing, like concentration, and this is also concentration. Now this is the glucose concentration, this is the NaCl concentration, as we all know. Now for example, if I mix NaCl in water, or I can mix ethanol in water, or I can mix glucose in water, as it says here, these all will be solutions. However, there is one that we've clearly learned in O level as well: oil in water. This is not a solution. It will instead make a suspension where both the layers will be separated. Like for example, water and oil will be separated. Now here it states that the water concentration, we don't refer to it as a water concentration, because water is always used as a solvent in different solutions. As we all know, it's a universal solvent, as I stated above. So it's a solute concentration, not water concentration. Water is a solvent. Now I mentioned previously higher water potential to lower water potential. This is one of the main concepts of the chapter, of the subtopic osmosis, and you'll hear this quite a lot, the term water potential. Now what water, this symbol that you see, the one like a trident right here, this symbol is of water potential. Now what water potential exactly is? It's the tendency or the power of water molecules to move out of the solution. It could be out of the solution, or it could be to move from one region to another. However, we have to state it, the power or the tendency of water molecules to move from one region to another, or to move out of the solution, which means relatively the same thing, because if there is if it's moving out of the solution, it's still moving from one region to another, right? Now what solute potential is? Solute potential is closely related to water potential. It represents the solute concentration of the medium. However, it is taken as a negative value. Now why the negative value, that I'll state. For example, you take distilled water, right? There's pure water, there's nothing added. In this case, the water potential or the solute potential is 0, because it has no sort of impurity mixed. However, when the impurity mixes, the value becomes negative. So the value of water potential decreases. Now the water has lesser tendency to move out of the solution, right? So for example, I'll show you right here. So it represents the solute concentration of the medium and is taken as a negative value. Now if there is 10% solute present, we can name it as -1. So it's just a scale used to make it easier for us. If it's 20% solute, we can name it as -2. So the value of water potential and the value of solute potential are closely related. So the water potential value depends exactly on the solute potential value. So they're the same essentially. The solute potential is also, if the solute potential is say -2, the water potential will also be -2, right? Because I just stated here how when you mix an impurity, the tendency of water molecules to move from one region to another decrease. Now do not mix the terms concentration and solute potential, although they're related. But if something has 10% solute concentration, right, as I mentioned right here, 10% solute concentration, it will have a -1 value. So this negative comes over here, right? So this statement, I'll just explain it. The higher the solute concentration, which means if you increase, say for example, you do 20%, 40%, you're increasing, right, 60%. So the more negative the value of the solute potential of the medium will be, right? That I think should make sense, because it will be -2, it is -2. When you increase the solute concentration, it becomes -4, then -6, and so on. Thus, this lowers the solute potential or the water potential of a region, because solute and water potential are essentially the same things. So the solute and water potential of a region is lowered, right? So this is just here's an example I drew out. So it's a tube which is separated by a partially permeable membrane. I forgot to mention it right here. A partially permeable membrane, right? Right. So over here, right here, if you see, it's 100% water. There is no solute mix. It's pure, completely. So it has a higher water potential as to the region where there is a lot of solute mixed. So this region, as I stated, the highest value of a water potential can be 0. It cannot exceed 0, because as I've stated right here, something which has no solute present inside it is 0. However, if you look on the other side, there is 20% solute present and 80% water. So as a result, the value becomes -2, and this solute we can suppose as sucrose. Now there's two things: there's movement of water molecules and there's a net movement of water molecules. So the movement of water molecules happens both sides. So water can go from here to here, or it can travel from here to here. However, the net movement that happens is from the region of higher water potential to the region of lower water potential, right? So this is the essential part where net movement of water molecules happens. As you can see, I stated 2 arrows going here and 1 going here, signifying that the net movement actually happens right from here to here, from this region to this region. Now, as I stated right here, the net movement of water occurs from a region of higher water potential to lower water potential, so both sides are equalized, right? So this has a 0 water potential and this has a -2. So water has to move out of this solution, so that even though water is moving, water from this region is moving here as well, but the net movement has to happen from a higher water potential to a lower water potential, so that the two can be equalized. And this is another example right here. So the region A, this is a partially permeable membrane, as you can see. Region A has 10% sucrose solution, and region B has 20% sucrose solution. So as a result, region A has a higher water potential compared to region B. So the net movement of water molecules will occur from region A to region B. So as you see, movement is happening in both directions, right? These green arrows that I've drawn right here, these green arrows show that movement is happening both ways. But the red arrow shows that the net movement happens from higher water potential to lower water potential. Now there's one last concept for one last definition for this, which is a pressure potential. Now a pressure potential is a positive potential value. So all we've learned is a negative potential value, both for water potential and solute potential, right? However, this is a positive potential value which acts against the negative solute potential. And you learn it how it's applicable in real life, in plant, in the osmosis in plant cells. So for example, the equation we can see is that water potential is equals to the solute potential plus the pressure potential. So solute potential is always negative. The water potential is also exactly same as the solute potential. However, if you put a plus charge or a plus a positive value of pressure potential against the solute potential, then it can equalize, and I'll show you how. So right here there's a diagram. So there's 10% sucrose solution in A and 20% in B. However, B contains this pressure potential of positive 1. So the movement of water molecules happens in both regions. However, had there been no pressure potential, it would be the same as the previous diagram I've shown right here, that the net movement would happen from A to B. However, because there is pressure potential, we can see this is what would happen if the terms were normal. However, because the pressure potential value has come, this thing cancels out. So although this thing remains, if we put in the equation that we learned, water potential is equal to solute potential plus pressure potential. So the solute potential here is negative 2 plus 1, which is the pressure potential value, which gives us an answer of negative 1. Now this negative 1 and this negative 1 of A, they equalize, right? Even though there's a difference in the initial solute concentration in both the sides, so net movement should take place. However, due to the pressure potential value, it balances out and no net movement takes place. Movement does take place, but no net movement takes place, because the two regions are equalized in solute potential and concentration as well. Moving on, osmosis in animal cells happens when, like, this is an example right here. This is, for example, an animal cell and tissue fluid outside the cell. So the solute concentration in tissue fluid is 10% and in the cell is 20%. So water moves from outside to inside. As I've stated right here, net movement of water molecules will occur from outside to inside down the water potential gradient until it is equalized, and the cell membrane acts as the partially permeable membrane in this case. Now the last thing that we learned for today is osmoregulation. We've learned this in O levels in just a bit detail in the chapters of kidney transport, I think. So osmoregulation is the regulation of water potential between body fluids. So what are the body fluids? They are the intracellular fluids and the intercellular fluids. Intracellular is within the cell, and intercellulars is between cells, between different cells. It can be done in two ways, which I'll just mention right here, and we'll learn them in detail. So it can be done through the water movement across cell membrane down the water potential gradient, as we've been studying right now. or it can happen through the movement of different solutes. Now, the movement of different solutes is done through facilitated diffusion or active transport, which we'll learn in next. Now, this is just one last example, after which we'll wrap up. So for example, this is a diagram, and we have to show where the net movement of water molecules will occur. So first of all, let's see, the outside it's -5, in cell A it's -1, so it'll move from cell A to outside, right? Now it'll also move from cell A to cell B because it is a higher water potential, and it will also move from cell A to cell C. So cell A uh, will release water everywhere because it has the higher water potential. So net movement will occur everywhere from A. Now that's not the only thing, right? From outside it will occur to C because C has a lesser water potential than outside, and it will also occur from B to C, right? And it will also occur from B to outside of the cell. So I think this is pretty much it. Yeah, this is it. So this is how the net movement of water molecules occurs throughout the different cells.